real joy, and so far, the film was getting high marks for me. So what could possibly come along and topple the whole show?
Because I don't want to tireless question. No. Way down.
Hang on a second. Okay, sorry. Hang on. What the hell is a scene like this doing in a film like this? Everyone was having fun. We don't need something like this. In my Independence Day review, I mentioned that the characters never overshadowed the film's fun factor. Well, that certainly isn't the case here. The people writing this movie are trying to downright force us to stop over these two's relationship, which is an impossible task considering this is a disaster movie which so far has been consistent in being an action comedy. This does not need to be a love drama as well. Not only is that derailing of the film's action comedy tone, but the drama sucks. Now, I almost never bring up a bad performance when it comes to my criticisms of films, and if I do, I never blame the actor. If I hire a contractor to build me a house and they send over a complete dumb shit that screws the whole thing up, I don't blame the dumb shit. He was sent here by people that should have known better. Same with the actors. As far as I'm concerned, if they can't act, they shouldn't get work. And if they do get work, it's the fault of the people who gave them work. It's not their fault, they're just doing their job. So I hope everyone keeps that in mind when I say, Ben Affleck and Liv Tyler can't act! It would have been bad enough to have to sit through this crap if two good actors were playing the roles, but we have to watch the most unconvincing couple since Titanic telegraph dialogue to one another. There is no way in the universe that anyone could possibly care about these two vacuums as much as the movie wants us to. Hit them both with a meteor, I say. So everyone's about ready to watch. AJ has been doing poorly in the tests by trying to be a cowboy rather than a professional, but is still allowed to lead a team up there. They all say their goodbyes and do their famous walk up to the door of the ship. This is where the film really starts to crash in the most disappointing way. For now, I'll just say this. When the worst part of your outer space adventure is when you actually get into outer space, you know you're in trouble. Close the curtain. So the oil drillers have all lifted off and arrived in outer space. Once there, they begin their journey to the Russian space station to refuel. So here is the $259 billion question. Why are they refueling when they haven't used any fuel yet? The fuel that was used for liftoff came from the launch modules that broke off after they lifted off. The actual ships have expended exactly 0% of their fuel. So there are only three options here. One, NASA sent them up there unfueled, only to have them fuel up to the space station, which doesn't make much sense if you think about how they would get to the space station. Two, they sent them up there with just enough fuel to get to the station to refuel, which again makes no sense. Or three, this is just an artificial attempt to get them onto a station to show us a few explosions. Guess which one I think it is. Here is huge problem number one with this film. There are no legitimate obstacles for these people to overcome once they get into outer space. It feels like the characters are battling the whims of the writers more than they are the challenge at hand. In Independence Day, the characters had to come up with new and different out here for years without a problem. Our characters come on, and suddenly, even immediately, the thing chooses now to blow up. And why does it blow up? Well, the cosmonaut on board told them not to touch anything, and they didn't take AJ down to a room and they told him to touch everything. Well, you what you heard, you can come for the net on, and if you had another one off, you ask for them, and you put it back all the way down the road. I'm the little girl from corner of the Russian state name. You see the rock on the side of the car. And here we go again. This cosmonaut actions tell us that he is either retarded or a contrivance plugged into the movie in order to show us an explosion. While Agent was down there screaming that he doesn't know what to do, the cosmonaut was doing nothing. So why didn't he go down there and do the job? He knows what he's doing. I suppose it could be argued that later in the film he discovered that he thought they were all astronauts, so maybe he never questioned that AJ would be able to do this. Two problems. First, not all astronauts are going to be familiar with fueling procedures, and this guy is obviously a pro. Second, it apparently isn't enough for the writers to have it blow up by accident. They have to make it blow up by accident. After all his attempts, after all his muddling through, Agent finally puts the release valve and the handle breaks off. Of course. Of course it does. Ultimately, all of the astronauts or blows up. So why did we need to watch that at all? It didn't matter. This is the ultimate problem with everything the astronauts encountered before us. That would be awesome. The characters have nothing to do but jump over hurdles in order to get to the actual problem. Some of the hurdles, like the space station blowing up, have nothing to do with the actual problem at all. And to top this all off, here is one of the first lines we heard from NASA.
NASA, we don't take chances. We don't let them take chances.
Yeah, I guess that's why the first mundane, routine action you took was a total catastrophe. I understand this is an action. I understand we have to give the writers some leeway for creating problems for these people. But when they can't even get gas without something blowing up, it's just plain insulting. So after the deadly gas station, the cast is now ready to get to the actual asteroid. They slingshot around.
Yahoo?
Welcome to part 2. Part 4.
NASA, we don't take chances. We don't let them take chances.
Yeah, I guess that's why the first mundane, routine action you took was a total catastrophe. I understand this is an action. I understand we have to give the writers some leeway for creating problems for these people. But when they can't even get gas without something blowing up, it's just plain insulting. So after the deadly gas station, the cast is now ready to get to the actual asteroid. They slingshot around the moon and make their approach from the back. Again, it's hard to understand what NASA's thinking was with this approach. The asteroid is moving towards the Earth, which means approaching it from the front would have been much easier, and they wouldn't have had to deal with all the debris coming off of the back. Well, guess what happened? They have to deal with all the debris coming off the back, and one of the two ships goes down. And at this point, you can really tell the writers are straining to fill the time in all of this, as this is one of the longest and most melodramatic crash scenes I've ever witnessed. And in between the shots of the crash and all